And we're going to be talking social media today. So everybody right now, you're going to want to share this. You're going to want to like this. You're going to want to tell all your friends, all your family, like, hey, we got special guest Michael Stallings joining us, co-founder of Conundrum. They were recently, now I just totally, Mike, I got all kinds of excited about it. They were acquired by Optimal Blue. And we all know Optimal Blue. They continue to have revolutionary technology. So Michael Stallings, welcome to the show this morning, my friend. I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, great to be here, Josh. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation we started last week. So
me too. There's some conversation that Michael and I have been having. Both of us are big tech guys. Both of us like to enjoy some gaming and some gaming outside of what we do. So that's going to be a fun conversation as well, ladies and gentlemen. But Michael, for those who don't know you, you've been in the industry for a long time. Give the ladies and gentlemen who are watching the Shred Show today a little bit of background on you.
Oh, sure. So I actually entered the mortgage industry from outside of the industry. So my background, had a varied background in tech and compliance and manufacturing. So when I came into the mortgage industry, I actually got brought in from a marketing agency that was doing a lot of work for big mortgage companies. And they needed help to kind of optimize business processes and things like that. So I got brought in to do that. And that's how I kind of learned what this whole mortgage thing was all about and how it worked. So it was a great education from the outside looking in. Also because I got to work with a lot of different players. So instead of just working for one mortgage company and kind of learning their way or their approach, I had the opportunity to see several different clients at the same time and how they approach different problems. So it was really helpful. And I think it kind of set the stage for, my career within the mortgage industry as how we helped. I actually had a marketing agency itself, and my marketing agency, we had back in the day, 6 of the top 10 lenders at one point.
Wow.
Were clients of ours. And, back before 2008, a lot of people, I don't know how many people would know, but 2 out of every 3 loans in the United States used to originate right here out of Irvine, California, in Southern California.
Holy cow, that's a huge number.
Yeah, it was really the place for mortgage lending at one point in time. I think that's a little more diverse now and spread out. But definitely the industry is cyclical. I see a lot of similarities today in the rise of some of these companies that are very similar to what had happened before with, the rise of the lending giants, I guess I'd call them. But that's what brought me. And then that experience caused me to start Conundrums. We saw that, hey, a lot of these mortgage companies and lenders have the same processes and they're having to repeat these things over and over. So we could make it more efficient and use scale by allowing them to kind of hand off a lot of those similar processes to us. And so we did that. We were very successful. So successful that Optimal Blue came along and said, hey, we like what you're doing. We'd like to add that to our kind of bag of tricks, and very excited. That's been a great run we've had with that. And now recently Black Knight acquired Optimal Blue. So we're really excited even more about our bag of tricks just got a lot bigger.
I was going to say, your bag of tricks keeps growing, right?
That's right.
Before we get too far into that, I got to ask, so when you were putting together Conundrum, when you were founding Conundrums, did you see the problem where people come to you saying, oh my gosh, this is an issue I'm having? Or did you see the kind of the writing on the wall, like, this social media thing, like people need help with it? How did it actually come to be?
So social media came out of, in fact, Conundrums and then social. Everything really stemmed out of the compliance space. So in my career previously, when I said I came out of compliance, I had worked for a company and was founded by a really innovative guy. His name was Dov Seidman, and the company was LRN. And he was a Harvard attorney grad, and he saw that all these law firms had to outsource a lot of work. And they were doing, or companies like Fortune 500 were hiring on these researchers, but it was law students. So he created this compliance process. And this was back early 90s or late 90s when you had the Enrons and the Sprints and a lot of stuff going on Wall Street. And out of that, I kind of saw what would happen with regulation and how compliance had to affect. And in 2008, I just saw the same type of thing happening over again in this industry. I was new to the industry. I'd only been in the industry at that time a couple of years. And that's why I saw that, you know what, the same kind of regs that got put in with, SOX compliance and these types of things, this is what's going to happen in the lending industry. It was kind of wild, wild west. And so we just started down that path, and it worked out for us. I think most times it does if you're doing the right thing. That's kind of the mantra we always had, is do the right thing. Everything else will take care of itself.
That's awesome. And now, like you said, it got acquired by Optimal Blue, which it got acquired by Black Knight. And now you just have an opportunity to continue to grow what you're doing, continue to put more time, more resources into it. So let's talk about something that I think is a really interesting topic, kind of the role of social media within our industry. You and I were talking about this prior to getting on here. And social media has finally started to be adopted within our industry. And some people are like, no, whatever, it's been around forever. Yes, it has. But I think companies, originators, real estate professionals, they're finally starting to see the value that social media can have. But I think the biggest conundrum that people face is like, they don't know where to start. They don't know how to use it. They don't know compliance. Is one of the biggest questions that I still get to this day. Like, well, how do I make sure I'm being compliant? How do I make sure, can I post this? Can I do this? So there's just a lot of questions. And that's exactly the resources and tools that you guys have at Optimal Blue for originators.
Right. I think it's really funny because I just recently had gone through a home purchase again myself. And so I was talking with my realtor about, hey, what was, she's been in the industry forever. And I asked her, I said, hey, how did people actually find homes back in the day? And she literally told me they used to have a book that was literally printed every week. And so you had to go to a realtor and search through a book. And it's just fascinating because you said, oh, social has been around forever. And it makes me laugh because I always think of how short our memories are, right, of things.
True.
In 1981, so not so long ago, but in 1981, only 20% of home buyers, or 22% of the home buyers, used newspaper ads to find homes. A newspaper ad. By 2018, almost half of all home shoppers start that search online.
Wow.
And I'm sure that's gone up in the past 2 years, especially with the pandemic and what's happening. And so what it really speaks to is the role of social is just like anywhere, you bought an ad because that's where the customers were looking.
Right.
Well, everybody's looking now on social media. You need to be on social media. And so that's really how that process kind of starts. It's unique for mortgage and for loan officers because, we don't get to do the listings. It starts with that realtor. That's why there's so much emphasis on those realtor referrals and relationships in this business. I, for one, am still a big believer that, we're still going to be around for a long time at having people as part of that home buying process and that loan process. It's the biggest purchase people are going to make in their life. It's a complicated process, and people need reassurance. It's an emotional thing that they're doing, and that's why the human element's always going to be there, in my opinion. However, the lead, the prospect, how you start that relationship and that connection, that's what's evolved and changed, and how the role of social media has come so much into play for people, from when they're starting that search online to, okay, now I found a property. How am I going to afford to buy the property? What can I afford? And so, you and I started talking about loan officers and branding and how important that is, that a loan officer start to brand themselves in this industry. And so a lot of the tools we created a free mobile app for loan officers to help them. Like you said, how do I get started? We made it so easy for people. It's like, hey, go download our social media mobile app, and it helps you get that process started to get you in there and get in the game, and making it easy for a loan officer to start that branding process for himself. A lot of great stuff coming as it relates to that. Google My Business, branding. I really try and tell loan officers, Google My Business as a loan officer is so important to your personal brand, because lending is still local.
For sure.
Big players. A lot of people don't realize that even the Rocket mortgages and all these big guys, it's still a focus at the local level. That's how they target, those big traditional. Yes, they do have the Super Bowl ads still, and doing those big mass things, because that's still a big part of it. But when you go online where everybody's shopping, they're not running a Super Bowl ad online. It's local marketing. Google, when you do that Google search, Google doesn't care about any of that national stuff. Google is saying, I know who you are, Josh. I know what you're looking for. I see the keywords. I take context. They have AI now that's looking at all these things. And you want to be part of that conversation. You need to figure out, as a loan officer, my brand has to come up, my presence on Google. You want to make sure, they can see, who are you? What are you about? I think what's the biggest thing about social too is it allows you to be more human and real and authentic in your conversation. It's not some glossy corporate ad that gets produced, that people are, suspicious of. You and I talked about being Jeepers, right? And being able to go off-roading and Jeep or gaming, these things we dig. It's cool to us. So, and people like people that are like-minded. So as a loan officer, if I'm doing VR or gaming and somebody else is into that as a millennial, they're going to kind of gravitate toward that instead of just that corporate ad that's sitting out there on a website saying, oh, we've got great rates.
Dude, I'm so glad we are talking about this, because coming from, a co-founder of Comergence, now with Optimal Blue, now with Black Knight, I mean, the mortgage industry in particular, it's kind of been this like inside the box style thinking. Don't get me wrong, there's incredible innovators and visionaries, but guys like you who actually get this bigger picture of social media. And social media, I still see to this day, and even some of the clients that we've worked with, they're the things that they're posting and the ads that they're running on social media. I'm like, that is not it. You don't get it. You're missing the ball. Like, you're so missing. You going back to branding, like you're talking about, and building a brand, a personal brand. It's all about local. People connect with local people. And again, even the you mentioned about being Jeepers and being gamers, like those are those things that most companies within mortgage or within real estate, they almost tell their originators to stray away from it. Like, no, it's business. Make sure you have your business page. It's all for business. At the end of the day, millennials, human beings in particular, like we don't think about mortgage all the time. So having a tool, having an app, having this that Optimal Blue has, that's right at our fingertips, that's why it's so useful. That's why Optimal Blue continues to push the envelope. And when I actually didn't know that Optimal Blue had this type of solution. And then, of course, we working with Optimal Blue on different projects. We heard about this, and I'm like, why aren't we shouting this from the rooftops? Like, everybody should know, because there's so many originators. There's so many people within our industry that could utilize this tool. So who can benefit? Like, is it just LOs? Who can actually benefit from utilizing this tool?
Well, there's two tools that we offer in the social media space. We have the social media platform that's for the company. So a brokerage, a banker, a bank, credit union type deal, they're going to use the platform. That's got a whole bunch of feature sets with compliance tools built into it. The individual loan officer, he's got his mobile app, and that's free for a loan officer. So he's able to get in the game. Like I said, he can publish. I think what's most important there too is you kind of talked about the square peg round hole, where they're running these ads and it doesn't really fit. And that's really a good point, because people need to understand, like we said, about being authentic in that channel. And I think a lot of people want to take the old school of, hey, I'm just trying to do, like, I had an ad over here, and now I just want to put the ad over here. And they have to kind of understand the medium a little bit. It's a little bit of a different context, and it's engagement. People miss the point where we talked about setting up a Google My Business as a loan officer, but it's not a set it and forget it thing either. So those reviews, you want to drive people to Google for reviews. I know people try and use third-party review platforms and sites, but the challenge is they're trying to tell you, hey, reviews are so important, use our platform. Well, reviews are so important, but not on a platform. Reviews are important at Google, because those Google reviews, those Yelp reviews, those Zillow reviews, that's what people are seeing and bubbling up in search and the search algorithms. That's what really matters for people. And more importantly, when you're in Google My Business, you want to be in that 3-pack of local search. So when somebody's searching, mortgage brokers near me, you want to get into that local 3-pack, not from an ad, from an organic. That Google My Business listing is critical. And there's two other really important factors there: your reviews. And so in our mobile app, we have the ability for you to ask for a review. So if you complete a loan, you can, right from the mobile, just email Josh or text him and say, hey, would you mind leaving me a review about your experience? Take them right to their Google review. But here's what's even better. Most people think, oh, I got a review out there, and it just sits there. But we've given them the ability to engage, so that now you'll see that review in your mobile app, and you can even reply and respond and say, hey, Josh, thanks. Or if something goes bad, it didn't work out, you didn't get the greatest rating, at least you can reply and say, Josh, I'd love to help you out. Let me rectify that situation. And that's so important because most loan officers think I need all 5-star reviews or I need 4-star reviews. Again, it's not authentic to say you're going to make everybody happy, right? And people want to see that. I want to see the range. I want to see, how did you handle it when things weren't exactly perfect? Because not everything's going to be perfect. The other thing about using Google My Business is post. Because that Google algorithm is looking for how active are you out on the web in that local market, those posts, Google actually deletes them every 7 days. So you're going to want to make sure you stay active and make sure you add a post to your Google post. It could be something as simple as a weekly update of what's going on in the market, something that's going on in your business. You're excited about a new game release. These are the types of things we talk about utilizing the tool and being authentic on them.
See, and I think that's, people still think, Google is one of those platforms that I think is so underutilized, and people are just trying to get those reviews, and they just keep trying to stack them, but it's actually engaging with them. And I'm so glad that you bring that up, because that engagement is something that Google's analytics, they look at. Right. So if you're just posting a review after review after review and there's no engagement, especially I see bad reviews and I see people not trying to deal with them. They're just trying to get them deleted. They're trying to go to like, hey, how can I get this deleted? And they're just like, this is killing my 5-star. Like I only have 5 stars. As a matter of fact, to me, if I ever look up a business and I see 5 stars, I'm a little bit sketched out. I'm like, really? Like, it's not possible to please everybody in this, especially in the world that we live in now. Like, you can't please everybody. So how are you dealing with those situations, especially in mortgage? Like you said, going back to your story of buying your home. It's an emotional experience, and not everything goes perfectly smooth. How did Michael deal with that situation that didn't go perfect? Depending on how he responded, makes it way more enticing for me to want to use him. Like, you know what? Michael is a real person. He clearly he had to deal with the situation, so I'm therefore going to use him. But Google is one of those, Michael, that I truly believe, and it's so cool that this is integrated into the tool, integrated into the system, that it can push right from your mobile. And I believe you guys have Facebook in there as well, correct?
True, right. So if you connect your Facebook page and somebody gives you a recommendation on Facebook, you have that same opportunity. You can engage them, correspond, reply, thank you, let me help you. It's really important. And, you talked about how do they do things, or how do they manage that? There's an old saying in the, mortgage training. It says, you want more referrals, be more referable, right? So it really is all about, how do you approach your business? Is it just about getting that loan done, or is it about taking care of that customer? I talked to a friend yesterday. She had somebody that just bought a home, and she had referred to a loan officer that, at Convergence, we deal with a few. So we've got lots of people when people ask. And this one guy had lost the deal. And she said, oh, why did he lose the deal? And he said, oh, he just didn't respond to me fast enough. And we always tell people, look, even if you can't answer their question or deal with it or address it at the moment, at least acknowledge, at least get back and say, you know what, I heard you, I got your message, I'll give you a call, to get it started, so they know you're there and they know you're real. That's just the most important thing I could tell people, is the engagement matters more than if you could say that old set it and forget it kind of, I put up a great brand, I put up a great pretty picture. I mean, that's okay, but that, as you know, in the world of social, it's not about looking perfect and you've got this brand of the old school Fortune 500 kind of thing. It's more about authenticity.
I agree with the authenticity, the raw, the real people. That's what we're looking for. That's what people are connecting with on social media. Now, you kind of mentioned there's different parts of this as well. There's a couple different parts of this, and I know a lot of people who are utilizing social media. There's a lot of tools and resources out there, from Hootsuite to Sprout Social. Why is Optimal Blues different? Why does it make it best? Why is it best for originators in particular?
Great question. So, our platform does a lot of same stuff that Sprout, Hootsuite, or some of these will do. I think what makes us more unique is we come out of the compliance space first. So we understand compliance needs. And the second thing is, we're very focused. We're not a platform. We're not trying to be all things to all people. If you have a flower shop or a restaurant or something, you can't even use our tool. You have to have an NMLS ID, which means you're an originator or you're a mortgage company, and we are solely focused on that vertical in that industry. which means the platform gets built and designed specifically for you, from net branches to multi-branch to multi-state. All of these factors are factored in when we're building these tools and how people are going to use them. And that makes a huge difference because you're not trying to, like I said, be all things to all people. And it means our customers have more of a voice. We have more feature sets and development that's driven from customer feedback than any other platform because our customers are in this one space and they're all similar, right? So we're able to see what's going on across all of them and put that in the platform instead of just being a generic platform. So I think that's what really separates us.
Well, and I think that's it too, I get a lot of questions like, hey, Josh, you post all the time. Is there something that you utilize to post on different social platforms? And your guys' tool, what you have built in, that can actually help you manage it because like you said, you have Hootsuite and Sprout Social, but they're designed for all, they have everybody and their dog using those platforms. Right. Your guys is specifically designed for originators. And like you said, with an emphasis, everybody listening here, we all know that compliance, and recently there have been fines and penalties issued to big companies for not following those guidelines. So Michael, this tool is not only helpful to originators, but can be a huge help to companies too, making sure their LOs, their originators are actually staying compliant.
I would say the compliance piece is probably the strength of the platform because you have the ability now to, one of the things you talked about before with companies would tell loan officers, don't use it or use it a certain way. And my favorite question, everybody say, okay, you have a policy, don't use it. How are you enforcing that? Or how do you know? Do you just believe out in thin air people are going to do that? That's just not human behavior. And especially, what are you trying to say? You don't want to be where the customers are anymore.
Right.
So companies start to understand that. And they're like, okay, so we know they're going to use it. And how do we participate in that use? It always starts with a good policy. Organizations, the starting point really needs to be, what is your policy about how they should use it? Give them good guidelines, help them understand. The compliance tools we have also help to manage the training and oversight part. So I have the ability to protect their privacy. I don't have to look into all the personal stuff they're doing, but hey, anytime there's keywords or trigger terms that the industry's identified, we can flag that and bubble those up so that they can review those things. So it takes a lot of the workload off of the compliance department as well. So administration's a big key. Because we're managing everybody's NMLS and loan officers, and that data, we get updated every single night from NMLS. So we know when loan officers are moving to your company or away from your company. So you don't have to add new users. That happens automatically. People really underestimate the administration that a social media compliance program has. And that's probably the biggest asset we are to the organizations. I can't stress enough how happy people are when they've tried something else and then they come over and their first fear is, oh my God, I got to go through that same headache I went through setting up originally. And then when they realize, no, they don't have to do that. It's a whole different, we already have everybody. It's just a big relief off their shoulders. So.
That is a huge relief. Again, working with a lot of companies that we do, working directly with originators and with lenders, that's one of the biggest, I guess, not complaints, but like concerns from companies. Like, how do I track all my originators? Like, there's so many of them. They're posting all the time. That's a solution that you guys have built into the system.
That's right.
And the fact that I didn't even know that if somebody changes, I know back when I owned my mortgage company, trying to track our LOs and trying to go through NMLS and wait, they're going here, we're onboarding this person. It's all done automatically through their NMLS. And that's why you have to have an NMLS to be part of the system, which again, I think is so brilliant. It's designed for our originator community. It's designed for us as industry professionals to continue to get better, to continue to utilize social media in the way that we keep talking about, Michael. It's being real, being authentic, it's being genuine. It's not about talking about mortgages all the time, talking about interest rates. It's being human, but at the same time, staying compliant. So none of us want to see anybody get fined or penalized for doing something that they just didn't know. So the fact that you guys are helping them set up these guidelines, knowing what companies should be looking for, what they should be watching for. So it's really, really exciting to me. So we talked about a lot of different little facets of the tool and how to utilize it. What's kind of on the roadmap? What's on the horizon? You talked about Google My Business, Facebook reviews. What else is on the horizon for this?
Well, for us, there's a lot more of the reputation management.
Hmm.
So, like I said, Google's there, Facebook's there. We plan on doing some more integration with other sites as well, like the Yelps and the Zillows, and bringing those into the platform, because right now it's all aggregated in one view. So I can
Hmm.
manage everything from all these platforms in one place. I don't have to go to all these different ones. So just continuing to add more and more services for them along those lines. We got a great reporting and analytics package that's coming. There's some stuff there now, but again, as customers say, I want to be able to see more and these different types of things, it helps us refine that data set and start to really expand it for people so that they can understand what's happening. How are we engaging? Where are the
Oh.
influencers? What should we be talking about? Keywords, clouds, things like that. It really helps people. So a lot of exciting stuff as it relates to that.
That is exciting. I was going to say, just hearing some about analytics. That's another question I get a lot. Like, how do I track my analytics? And it
Right.
sounds like you guys on the roadmap, being that they're already plugged in the system, they're utilizing it to post. They're going to be able to track some analytics through that as well, which is huge for us. We're going to know what things we should be talking about, what's really
Right.
getting our audience engaged. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, as we're trying to connect with our audience, whether we're talking about Jeeping or gaming or mortgages, whatever we're talking about, we're actually
Right.
going to be able to see, like, man, it was that video on that day that they really engaged with. I clearly need to put out more content around that.
It
So
looks like that. Exactly.
exactly, like that's what's super exciting to me. I want to start wrapping up with this. How do you predict the use of social media will continue to shape our industry and change our industry?
Well, I think, you and I talked that we're slow to adopt things in this industry. Um, but once we do, we kind of jump in both feet. And I just see more and more use of, you've seen these home buying sites, technology is definitely, it's starting to hit, I'd say second or third gear as it relates to the mortgage industry now. And so it's only going to become more prevalent. Facebook is still king. Everybody wants to jump to the next one. Is it Snap? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? And try and jump in. But the challenge is I would always caution people is, hey, as much as I love for people to adopt it, you really need to take a step back first and say, what's my goal and how does that platform fit into that goal? And I would tell people, you don't want to be like trying to do 5 platforms and be everywhere. That's not
Agreed.
really what you want to do. Master one. Today, home buyers and millennials, still Facebook is king by far and away. Over 84% use Facebook as that kind of tool, and over 74% have used Facebook in the home buying process, right? So
Wow.
it's important that people say, hey, I know that might be the hot trend or something right now, but it's okay to kind of keep an eye on that one, while I know this one is where everybody really is. I can track my audience. They've got tools for me. um, that's kind of my advice to people. But I definitely, and we don't know. I mean, these social platforms are so new and there's so much going on with privacy right now. We don't know how they're going to change. And I've just in the past 3 years that we've been doing this, we've seen tremendous amounts of change on these platforms. You saw Facebook having to scale back on, your advertising, what you could do demographically because of the requirements. So they're all going to change. So you got to be prepared to engage, learn what you can, but you also have to say, hey, I'm going to be flexible
Mm.
because I don't know what that next new platform might be. There might be something that comes out of there, but for today and the foreseeable future, I'd probably say the next 5 years, it's still going to be Facebook. Facebook's king. It's the monster. A lot of people I say, well, what about LinkedIn? And I would say where LinkedIn's really going to help you as a professional is in professional networking.
Yep.
LinkedIn's not a tool for you to get new borrowers or home buyers as a realtor. LinkedIn is more a place for you to network with other mortgage professionals. And that way you can learn from each other. You can, better start to understand what's working. There's good groups. There's LinkedIn groups out there that you can become part of as mastermind sessions. So that's a good example of using the tool for its proper use case.
And I totally agree with that. I think all the social platforms that I'm part of, and it's funny that Michael, do you TikTok? I got to know. Are you a TikToker?
Uh, I deleted TikTok a while back, but I was loving TikTok for a while there, just checking out TikTok. It was really, I got caught up trying to learn how to do this. Well, I don't know what even that shuffle thing was, but
Oh my
I
gosh.
was
I could
watching
see you
people
doing
do
it.
that. It was hilarious, but
TikTok is one of those. It's a black hole for me and my kids. Like my kids love it, and we try to do some of those dances. And my wife just rolls her eyes. She's like, "What are you guys doing?" But going back to your main point, like Facebook is the king. Like until Zuckerberg is shut down for doing who knows what. But he just here's the thing too. You look at what he's accomplished and what Facebook has brought us. I started using Facebook back before anybody thought Facebook could ever be used for ads, for marketing, for doing anything, and it brought a lot of business to me and my brokerage at the time. Right. It is such a useful tool. They continue to do the right things. And like you said, and everything, all the analytics that we gather, that's where the majority of eyeballs are still at. You can argue Instagram, you can argue this or that. LinkedIn, I agree with you. It's a professional network. We post a lot of our stuff on there, but when it comes to finding new home buyers, probably not the best place to be spending your time. Facebook, by far and away, is the juggernaut. It's hard to be touched. So Michael, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today, sharing all these insights, sharing these incredible tools. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard if you're struggling with social media, if it is a conundrum, because it can be overwhelming at times. If you're struggling as a company when it comes to compliance, if you're needing help and guidance with that, you got to reach out to Optimal Blue. You got to utilize this tool. It's right there in front of you. Again, I talk about simplicity, ease of use. It's there, ladies and gentlemen. You just have to use it. Let's go.
And it's available in the Google Play Store or Apple. You just look up Optimal Blue Social Media Marketing and you'll find it. It'll pop right up for you.
There you go. You enter in your NMLS ID and you're off to the races, ladies and gentlemen. Michael, thank you so much for joining us, man. Appreciate all your insights. And I'm excited to see what the future brings. You guys continue to innovate. And now with Black Knight in the picture, just going to continue to be bigger, better, and have a lot more fun. So
it's exciting. Thanks. Appreciate it, Josh.
As always, Michael, looking forward to having you on the show because I'm excited to see some of the improvements and things that come out in the future. And guys, if you're joining us live, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you comment #shred. If you're joining us on the replay, comment #hustle. That means you're out there, you're getting it done, then you're coming back here to get what you need to go dominate your local business. Guys, as always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See you guys. See you.